All right. Good evening, everyone. And we'll continue today. I was thinking we'll round up, but I think we should have another session of Stop Worrying and Start Living. The last one will be next week when we'll do the summary, which I plan to do today, but I thought it necessary to add this particular one to it. Then after that, we have an interlude as usual, and then we'll start a new series. And that will be on prayers. It's going to be an interesting session for those of us that will be able to make it and be part of it. But this evening, let's continue part 16, Stop Worrying and Start Living. And today we are discussing mastering happiness. Mastering happiness. Let me start by reading our anchor verses for this series of session on depression that have been titled Stop Worrying and Start Living. For those who walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold, casting down imagination, and every item that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Casting down imagination. I've emphasized since this program started about the fact that the imagination is actually the stronghold. The way we think, either as a result of our imagination or as a result of our memory. The two fantastic gifts that mankind have that have been a source of mystery and challenges. Because when we are unable to manage our vivid sense of memory and fantastic sense of imagination, these awesome tools can turn against us. And that has been a challenge of many. Actually, as to confront challenges, he said, the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold. And he said, casting down imagination. If we are going to pull down that stronghold, we need to understand the fact that we have a weapon that is not physical, but rather is spiritual. It's called the word, the scriptures, the word of God. He said we must cast down every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. So what the devil do when he brings his thought is to exalt himself against the knowledge of God. And he said, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So, to pull down the stronghold, cast down imagination, cast down everything that exalts itself against knowledge of God, and bring down under your control every thought to the obedience of Christ. So we must incapacitate wrong thought, bring it under control. But the mind cannot be blank. We must give our mind something to think about, something right. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. No wonder Solomon said, guard your heart with all diligence. And he said, out of it are the issues of life. Because if you don't guard your heart, you will not be able to give your mind to think about what is right. Then you are going to find yourself struggling against the stronghold created by the devil. That scripture in another translation says, be mindful what you think, because your thoughts control your life. Be mindful what you think, because your thoughts control your life. So let's start today. First of all, it's important to tell yourself that You will not be a victim of any circumstances that confront you in life. You know, when we're confronted, someone said, did you become wiser? Or you become wounded? And I say it this way, the challenges of life will make it to either can become a refining fire for you or a consuming fire. Either become wounded or become wise. Sincerely, challenges of life should make us wise if we look at it from the right perspective. The reason why it's not making us wise is because we're not looking at it from the right perspective. Anything that controls your feeling makes you a victim or a slave to such a thing or such a feeling. That means you are leaving your mind and power to such a situation and circumstance of life to control. Because no matter what happened to us in life, we must be in charge. So I always remind myself, you know, you need to, because we have been, some of us are 25 years, 30 years, 35 years, 40 years, 45 years, probably 50 years. And we have had a way we have been thinking for many years, actually. So when you hear some of this new paradigm, it's not so easy for many to just change. And I can understand. But that's where practice comes in. So for example, you are faced with a challenge. You must always, first of all, you must begin to live conscious to be able to know that, look, in this situation, I will not be a victim. I will not be wounded. I will be wise. I will be victorious. So being conscious and being aware become important so that you don't get into the depression, sadness, sorrow for days, for weeks before we realize that you're not doing well to yourself. You need to know that your thought as human being can make you sick. No wonder it is said that majority of our sicknesses as human beings are psychosomatic, having thoughts of the mind as the origin. They are psychosomatic. The thought is contributing immensely to the source of that sickness. Because, you know, like I said severally, we are a chemical factory. We are a chemical factory. We are a chemical factory. And because we are a chemical factory, thoughts stimulate glands that produce chemicals, otherwise called hormones. Thought stimulate glands that produce chemicals, otherwise called hormones. And those hormones then affect our body. Some have a degenerative impact on the body, whereas some have an immuno-enhancement impact on the body. So each time I just think about this, just realize that human beings, we are the architect of our problem. We are the architect of our problem. No wonder that scripture already says, be mindful of what you think because your thoughts control your life. And, you know, I have to be, you know, as I work, as we handle different things, projects, programs, different work. There are different challenges that confront us as human beings at work. And as I look at those challenges, I realize that if you don't begin to live consciously, sincerely, you know, sometimes you just realize that they will say in Yoruba land that if you need high BP, the person is worried, full of worry and anxiety. And what happens is this: when you are worried and full of anxiety, you release cortisol and adrenaline. Adrenaline increases the heart rate, cause vasoconstriction, that's the constriction of blood vessel, you know, because adrenaline is released for fight and fright and flight. So when it's released, it's preparing you for a fight, he has to increase, and to increase the blood pressure, the force of contraction was increased, and the vessel size must be reduced so that the pressure can go, so that that adrenaline release can get to every part of the body and enhance the muscle to do the fight or the flight. Now, but if you keep having that response regularly, that every time you are fearful, every time you release adrenaline, what happens is this: you get used to it. That chemical keep being released, your body gets used to it, and it makes the blood pressure to be perpetually high. So because the person have a challenge, the person has an issue, the challenge or the issue the person have, the challenge or the issue the person have is such that it reoccurs because he has not learned to control the way he reasons and the way he thinks. The thought stimulate the gland that produce the adrenaline, that increase the blood pressure, that cause contraction or increased contraction of the heart, and it reduce size of the vessel, increase the pressure to drive the adrenaline to the part of the body for the body to respond. And you know what happened? The person gets used to this. And that leads to consistent high blood pressure. So they will say because the person is thinking, the blood pressure has gone up. And the person is already digging his own grave by his own hand. Why? He has not learned to manage the way he reason or think about that problem. Be mindful of what you think, because your thought control your life. Be mindful of what you think, because your thought controls your life. This is because your thought is capable of triggering the release of chemical substance that causes depression of your immune system, thereby making you sick. Thereby making you sick. Thought is the language of the brain, and feeling is the language of the body. Thought is the language of the brain, and feeling is the language of the body. The moment you remember your problem, you feel unhappy, you feel anxiety, you feel fear, the body is so objective such that it does not know the difference between ordinary thought or real life experience creating that emotion. The body does not know that that emotion is not real. It's at the level of thought because of the way you are thinking. Remember, the body is very objective. The body is very objective. The body just acts based on the signal provided, either because there's a real problem at hand or because of the wrong thinking process. Or because of the wrong thinking process. Or because of the wrong thinking process. So the negative thought creates negative feeling. This tends to generate more negative thought that further aggravates the problem. The problem before the lack of funds for personal finance, the problem because was lack of funds for personal finance. Now, you are another thought of what if my parents call or my brother called from school and they need money. Now, there was a problem. You have thought ahead and had another layer of problem that makes you feel sad the more. And the implication of that is that this aggravates the problem the more. This further aggravates the problem the more. This further aggravates the problem the more. When a negative thought creates negative feeling, this tends to generate more thought. that further aggravate the problem the more. The problem before was lack of finance. Other thoughts have come true. Now, the challenge is this. If this consistent thinking negatively continue unabated, if this continue unabated, if this continue unabated, what will happen is that it becomes an habit. It becomes an habit. What you really don't want to happen is for it to become an habit. What you really don't want to happen is for it to become an habit. But guess what? It will become an habit if you continue unabated. A habit means that the body has now mastered the act such that you do not need the mind to do it again, even though it started with the mind. Now, look at what happened. Before the mind caused it. Now, the body just continues it unabated because it's now an habit. It's now an habit. Feeling depressed becomes something that people get used to. This makes you to become conditioned to a type of life that you don't even like, but yet it seems to be incapacitated. Since this is now devoid of the use of your mind, it makes you to now be more judgmental and blame others when things happen in that area. You're not taking responsibility again. No, you're not taking responsibility again. You're not taking responsibility again. You know, there's a way we think about problem that is wrong. But there is also a way to effectively think about problem more effectively and productively. There is a way we think about problems that is very wrong. And thinking about it in a way that creates fear, releasing hormones that causes degeneration of the body. But there's a way to think about it productively. First of all, you need to go to a greater level of consciousness than the one that created the problem. You cannot solve a problem with the same mindset, with the same level of awareness and consciousness and knowledge, with the same level of wisdom and understanding that created it. No. You need to come to a higher level of knowledge, a higher level of consciousness. In this case, it means an awareness of the possibility that you have not thought of before. So, first of all, to think productively, effectively about a problem, you need to get to a higher level of consciousness than the one that created it. That higher level of consciousness basically mean awareness of the possibilities that you have, of the possibility that you have not thought of before that problem occurred. The high level of consciousness means awareness of possibilities. Awareness of possibilities that you have not thought of before. You can achieve a greater level of consciousness by looking at the principles in scriptures that speaks to that challenge. For example, who are those that face that challenge? And the interesting thing about the scripture is there's practically nothing that people face today that the scripture does not have example. At least something very akin to it. Almost every challenge. So Paul faced a particular challenge. He was sick. He had chronic autonomia, we're told. And he prayed. He prayed. He prayed 3 times, but no answer. The only response he got is that my grace is sufficient for thee. My grace is sufficient for thee. For my strength is made perfect in your weakness. My grace is sufficient for thee. For my strength is made perfect in your weakness. And that's the level of awareness. That what God would have prevented in his power, he allowed in his wisdom. You therefore need to be at a level where you can appreciate what he's doing. Where you can appreciate what he's doing. The higher level of consciousness in this case means an awareness of the possibilities that you have not thought of before. And you know, the more you learn, the essence of this kind of program is actually to help you build that level of awareness. That's the whole idea. To learn and come to a level to let you build that level of awareness. It's like coming to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So transformation, because of knowledge that's coming. For example, you think this negative circumstance will lead to a very bad ending, and that is making you to be afraid, but awareness that all things work together for good make you to overcome the fear. You can only achieve a greater level of consciousness by reading. You can also attain, rather, a level of consciousness by reading about those that have faced the similar challenges ahead. If you look at the scripture, you see the challenges that Abraham faced. He had issue with his child, not having child on time, but eventually had the father of the patriarch. Even the son, Isaac, faced his own challenge. He was trying to do business, and the infrastructure for the business was being taken over. He thought to build well. The other people, they don't even think about well, but Isaac thought of it and built the well. And they took over from him. They took over the well. He will build, he will take over. 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 Till he build and nobody take over. How about Joseph? You know, when you think of those challenges that others have faced, you know what it does? It brings you to a level of awareness. It brings you to a level of awareness. And that level of awareness that it brings you helps you to be able to know, okay, this is what to do in this situation. This is how to handle this situation. This is what to avoid in this situation. This is what to avoid in this situation. Now, I'm going to be demonstrating example of what I've just said now. I'm trying to create an awareness about level of consciousness and awareness. Look at this. One of the challenges of human beings is that we are not looking at life we are looking at life only from the perspective of safety. That's a challenge. That's a very big challenge. Try. We look at life from the perspective of safety. So the more the security you have in life, the less your freedom. That's what the prison is called, maximum security prison. The more secure you have, the less your freedom. The less your freedom, the less you can manifest the gift God has given you. The less you can manifest, providing solution for mankind. The less it can be a blessing. The more you are looking for security. So the more security oriented you are in life, not disturbed, you will be.
Verify quantities one
with every change that happens in life. Because you are security oriented, any small thing you are disturbed. Because you want everything to be at ease and just everything going on. So because you're already security oriented. Whenever there's a challenge, you're uneasy, you're disturbed, perturbed, worried. One reason why change is becoming difficult as you grow older is because you have found the cocoon of comfort, because there are many comfort zones that you have created for yourself. So you don't want anything that will trouble your waters. So when there is a challenge, you're worried. As you grow older, you're worried. You don't want to ruffle feather. Everything should just continue as normal. No pressure, no issues. Hello. But that's not a sign of growth. Yeah. That's not a sign of growth. And this is very important. In that comfort zone, and we want to hold on to it. You know, one thing we always forget is that we are not in control. No, we are not in control. God is the one in control. Because you are not in control, things do happen. Remember, what he would have prevented in his power, he allowed in his wisdom. Any disturbance of your comfort zone makes you disturbed in your life as a whole. Any shaking make you disturbed in your life as a whole. So when we were young, you were not looking for comfort. You're looking for life. Just look at children and look at the way they play. They didn't even care for security or safety. That's how they injure themselves. Because Jump, 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 jump. Why? No, they're not looking for safety. They just want to enjoy life. When you became a teenager, you had wild dreams or what you wanted to do in life. But when you become a young adult, 25, 26, 23, just after school, you want to get a job, life will begin to happen. Reality will begin to come. And you begin to cut down on those dreams because you think you are now more practical. No, you're just trying to be more secure, more saved. You're trying to reduce ruffling feathers. You're trying to be more secured, more saved. That's what you're trying to do. All that is happening to you is that you are becoming a coward. And you are saying it's because I am becoming more practical. But in the real sense of the word, you're becoming a coward. Because you don't want challenges. You don't want challenges. By the time the person is 35, he will say, I don't want to get into trouble. And if I don't get into trouble, that's enough. But that is when you really get getting into trouble. Because life is full of challenges. So if you don't anticipate challenges and find a way to manage the situation, it will come anyway, only that it might leave you in a very bad shape. Only that it might leave in a very bad shape. That's the challenge. So you're not looking for life. You're not looking for zest, excitement. You're looking for life with safety and more security. The more security oriented you have in life, the more disturbed you will be when things happen to you that is making you to make some difficult changes in your life. You become more disturbed when things happen that require you to make a change. Please note, the essence of physical existence is change. Change is a constant thing. From when conception happens, the zygotes grow and become morula. The morula differentiate into different kind of cell, ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. These cells in embryology begin to differentiate. The head is formed, the nervous system is formed, the muscle is formed, the bone is formed, the skin is formed. That change will continue till the change that forced the baby out. Because after a while, the baby becomes too heavy for the chorionic sac carrying it in the womb to bear, and it breaks the water. And then the baby wants to come out. Immediately it comes out, changes happen again. He starts breathing, using his lung that he has never used. He starts talking, crying. The babies are growing. As the baby begins to grow, he'll begin to grow teeth. Another change with pain. The baby attempts to walk. Another challenge with pain. Have you ever wondered why parents, when they see the baby walking, even though he falls, they will encourage him to continue to walk. They will keep encouraging the child. They won't say, no, don't let him enjoy himself, stop. The baby will never walk if he doesn't learn to walk. That change continues consistently in the life of that baby. So, when you look at life holistically, you just realize that life is all about change. So if life is about change, why do we want to resist change? Now, remember I said earlier that we need to begin to think about problem differently, that there is a way to think about problem in an effective and productive manner, and that you need to go to a higher level of consciousness than the one that created the problem. There's a level of consciousness and awareness that created the problem. You need to go to a higher level of consciousness than the one that created the problem. The higher the level of consciousness, the higher the level of consciousness in this case, or the higher level of consciousness in this case means higher awareness of the possibility that you have not thought of before. So the way this applies here is the possibility that change is a constant thing. Change is a constant thing. Change is a constant thing. God is constant. Change is constant. God is change. Logic, right? God is constant. Change is constant. God is change. He will initiate that change, probably even force that change to happen. Why? Because it is a necessity for your advancement. So one thing we must not do in life is to try to resist change. One thing we must not do in life is to try to resist change. Change is a necessity for your advancement. Change is a necessity for your advancement. Do not try to resist change. It's a constant thing, and it's a necessity for your advancement. You are not looking at life with zest, you are looking at life with safety. Remember, the more security-oriented you are in life, the more disturbed you will be when anything happens that threatened that security. And it's change that will come and threaten. Remember, the essence of our existence is change. The essence of our existence is change. Everything in your physical life existence is constantly changing. Do you know that 12 hours ago, we just woke up? It was just light. In fact, when I started this session 30 minutes ago, it was bright. Now it's dark. It was still bright. As at 7 a.m., 7 p.m., it was bright. And this darkness will continue till tomorrow morning. Change is happening every day. Do you know the earth rotates on its axis once in 24 hours? And the earth revolves around the sun once in 365 1/4 days. Change happens. You know how rain falls? Condensed cloud. Change. So if life is about change, why is it that we resist change? The reason why we are stressed is because we have expectation. And change will create a different reality. You have an expectation, change will create a different reality. The wider the gap between your expectation in life and the current reality of your life, the higher the degree of stress in that life. Remember, we're discussing stop worrying and start living. That life will begin full of worry and anxiety. So we have expectation created by the society, created by the environment, created by where we find ourselves. We have expectation. But change creates a different reality. So your reality is not always aligning with your expectation. It's not always aligning. Because it's not always aligning, it creates stress, troubled and disturbed. Because your expectation will not always tally with your reality. The wider the gap between your expectation and your current reality, the higher the level of stress in our lives. Please allow the change to happen to you so you can be alive. And when you're full of change, people will enjoy living with you, working with you. And when you're gone, they miss you. If you resist change, then you're resisting life. If you don't want any change in your life, there is only one beautiful place where that happened. Only one beautiful place where that happened. When there is no more change, no more stress, no more pressure, it's called the graveyard. It's called the graveyard. That's the only place where change don't happen again. Change is life. Life is change. Now, I use the word change. The change could be challenges in different areas of life. Forcing you to make necessary adjustments. Forcing you to make necessary adjustments. You see, in this life, it is easier to go. It is easier. It is either you go it's either someone decides to allow the stress to make him go to early grave, or he learned to master change. Or he learned to master change. Because when we don't master change, it creates a lot of stress and that leads to people's demise. This is because life is changing every day. Like, for example, as you are listening to me, you are breathing in and out. That's another change right there. That's another change right there. Yeah, even your body is changing. You are breathing in. You can't keep the breath. The heart is pumping the blood. Change is life. Life is change. That change of your breath in and out, that change of the blood pumping to the body, do you know what it's doing? It's leading to your growth. Can you see? It's guaranteeing your survival and existence, and therefore very important. So when you sit down and just look at life, you just realize that lack of understanding is our biggest challenge. And if we understand life, I was talking to someone today. Someone called me, and the lady was lamenting about two ladies who are leaders, supposed to be youth leaders in the church, who are having some misunderstanding among themselves. And it's like, I was telling him, I said, it is when you have not learned to understand life. That's why I tell people that, for me, Christianity is beyond just is beyond just reading the Bible and praying, is life. That what the Bible prescribes for us as human, if you can practice it, we will have a better life. Not without challenges, but we'll be able to better handle that challenge. So for you to be having issue with your fellow sister, avoiding yourself, not alive, I mean, and you are supposed to be walking to, I just want to say, if you understand life, you know that no matter what people do to you, you have to forgive. You just have to forgive because it's for your own good. It's for your own good. There's just something about us understanding. It's like, I don't know how to talk about it. I think sometimes these people, there's just something wrong about it. They don't seem to understand what life is about at all. So there's some things that are supposed to be non-essential that people worry themselves about, fighting, argument, rancor. I think, wow. So, and what happened? It was change that happened. It was change. Someone was a friend to someone, but another person arrived in that particular location, and Sister A, who was a good friend of Sister B, now prefers Sister C and became a friend of Sister C, and Sister B become unhappy because Sister C now came and took away his friend. In summary, now what has happened there? Change. Change has happened. That's what happened there. Change. Someone who was your friend before was not close to you again because he saw another person that is now closer to than you, and then you got offended. And then it now begin to manifest in different area of work. I was just wondering, inability to manage change. That change is constant thing. Someone can not be your friend for life. In Yoruba land, there's an adage that says that 20 children cannot play together for 20 years. 20 children living in the same locality cannot play together for 20 years. By the time they get to secondary school, that's when the separation will start. Some will go to boarding house. When you go to boarding house, they will get to see themselves again, probably during holiday. And even during holiday, some will go and do holiday with their uncle. They might not see themselves again. When they finish WAEC, admission come, they will scatter. That one just scatter everybody everywhere. Immediately they finish admission, NYSC. Finish university, NYSC. After NYSC, look, if any of you see yourself, thank God. With today's world, maybe the only thing you see is to be able to see yourself on WhatsApp, on social media, but at least not the way you used to do it before. What am I saying in essence? Change. 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 Many people are unable to manage it. They are unable to manage it. If you don't want change, try to stop breathing and see if you can survive it. So when you are resisting change, you're actually resisting not just your life, but rather the very fundamental process of life. That's what you are resisting. This makes you to invite all sorts of suffering into your life because you cannot resist change. You cannot resist change. Change will force its way through to your life. And because you are unable to accommodate it, it's going to destroy you, make you miserable, makes you unhappy, frustrates you. Because you can't resist it. It's like flood coming. You want to stop the flood will carry you. What makes you unhappy and depressed is because you are resisting change that is happening to you in life. Anytime someone is unhappy and depressed, he's facing a challenge, that's a change, and he doesn't want it to happen. He's resisting it and becomes sad because he wants to resist it, but the change has not changed. Change has not gotten better. and the person start worrying and stop living. The person start worrying and stop living. What leads to unhappiness and depression is because you are resisting change that is happening in your life. Please note that fear, worry, anxiety, unhappiness, depression is an ineffective way of killing yourself. Worry, fear, anxiety, unhappiness, depression is a very inefficient way of killing yourself. It damages you completely. And they are all manifestation of resistance of a change, of a challenge, of an issue that you don't want to happen, but it's happening. And you're unable to manage it. Once you resist change, depression, worry, and anxiety become a natural occurrence in that life. That's why I say you don't have control. You will not always have control. The only thing you can do is to learn to manage the change that will inevitably come into your life. Frustration and depression are the two very important tools that you can give to the devil. And the devil can use it to frustrate you, to destroy you. Frustration and depression. So it starts with frustration or fear, then worry and anxiety and depression and hopelessness, and the care is not taken, consequently can lead to suicide or a disease. Remember when I started about how all this emotion increase the production of stress hormone, cortisol, and adrenaline that will make your heart to beat faster, constrict the blood vessels, increase blood pressure. And if you keep doing it and you get used to behaving that way, hypertension setting. So someone is facing a challenge, one on BP, is thinking, is worried, but it's allowing continuous release of cortisol and adrenaline, and then it will destroy his heart, will destroy his blood vessel, and increase blood pressure. Frustration and depression are two very important tools that you can give to the devil to use to destroy you. Start with fear and anxiety, depression, hopelessness, and consequently death or diseases. Once you resist change, frustration is a natural occurrence. And this continues on a trajectory to depression and could consequently lead to disease that can terminate such a life. As we round off, remember, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. For the weapon of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down stronghold, casting down imagination and every item that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Remember, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. And lastly, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. All right, thank you very much for being able to make it today. Okay, Jerry and Sheon. Sheon, good evening. How are you tonight? Hello, Sheon, are you there? Good evening, can you hear me? Okay, Jerry, can you hear me?
Good evening, sir. I can hear you.
What have you learned tonight? Thanks for joining.
I planned to join earlier though. So I learned about change, and I learned about worrying. And this, I mean, where we are now, it's not even where we are now. All the results we have seen in this world, none of them has been an effect of worrying. It has been an effect of change.
Yeah.
And when things change, and then you adapt to change easily, and then no matter how much it changes, as far as it doesn't become something good or it's not the best yet, we should have this mindset that no matter what happens, change is necessary and change is constant. And I also learned that God is also change. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yes.
Yes. Because if the situation doesn't
God is
please you and
constant,
you are
change is
praying to God
constant,
for
God is
change,
change.
yes, change is constant and God is constant. Yeah, so God is change. Yeah. So if the situation isn't pleasing to you and you are praying and waiting for answer, and God makes something change, maybe it makes inflation to rise, or it makes maybe this currency to fall, so that things will work around in your favor, and you are still expecting something else from somewhere else, then you are not having the right mindset to change.
Brilliant.
So we should
Brilliant.
also have a positive mindset to change.
Brilliant. Thank you. Hello, Shewan, are you available now? Okay, I think Shewan is busy tonight. All right, thank you very much for being able to make it tonight. See you next week and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.